I would get established on a social media platform, start thinking about who I'm talking to, who is my ideal customer avatar, right? Start making connections with them, creating content. But I would also dual path it to establish myself locally, join a networking group or join a gym, somewhere where I can actually get my face in front of others and start building relationships in person as well.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring our special guest today, Dena Holmes. Hey, Dena, are you ready to make it happen?
Oh, Simon, I am so ready. I am so geeked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dena Holmes was a former automotive executive selling safety components, such as seatbelts, airbags, etc., when she got started in network marketing. She definitely wasn't an instant success, as it took her 13 years before she became a six-figure earner. Today, Dena is a full-time leader who loves helping people thrive both physically and financially. She credits her success to creating systems for onboarding, training, and customer retention. So, Dena, I've given MLM Nation a brief intro, but please take us to your background. How did you get started in network marketing?
Sure, I would love to. Simon, I was one of those people where I've always worked hard in life. I worked my way up the corporate ladder in the automotive industry, all while going to school at night. I was a single mom for a lot of those years, but life for me really changed when I got remarried. I had another child, and I started to look at my life in a much different way. I had a lot of success, right? What most people would consider success, material things. But what I didn't have is balance within my work, career, life, right? We hear a lot about that. My relationships at home were suffering with my husband, with my kids. I mean, in a sense, it was like my job was my important child, right? So because of that, everything else started to break, including my physical health, even like my mental health, and my spirituality was non-existent. So it was at that point in my early 30s where I said, you know what? Maybe I need to start looking at network marketing differently.
So you were approached before, but you were never open to it, correct?
Yeah. Totally. So in fact, I've got to be honest with you, when I first heard of network marketing, I had a negative view of the industry. I felt it was kind of low tech, right? Like these people are salesy, product pushing fanatics who are into a lot of bling and disco balls. And so I thought it was an abusive relationships. I wanted really nothing to do with it. But interestingly enough, I had a very good friend who was seeing success in the business. Right? It wasn't that she was making a ton of money yet, but it was her lifestyle that I wanted. She had time with her kids. She had a great marriage, time for a volunteer Christian ministry that she loved, right? Those were all the things that I wanted. I wanted to be a part of in a greater capacity, but my career was always, in the way. So I started to really look at her and I thought, well, she's surely not low class or low tech, right? She's not pushy. She was an example to me by her attitude, her approach, and her lifestyle. It made me start thinking, what if there was a different way? What if I could live a life that gave me time flexibility to do the things that I love with the people that I love? And that is what had me say yes.
So what was it? How did she connect? How did she introduce you to it? Was it through social media, or was it just she reached out to you? How did it happen?
Good question. So we had been friends, and she started using the products that she was using in her spa. She was a massage therapist. And so that's how she introduced me to the products. I started off as a customer. I was a really good customer. I liked the products. And so then when things started to change with my work life, with that career, right? Things weren't going well at home with my health. I knew I needed to make a change. And I thought, well, if I can sell complex safety components for cars, I can sell health and wellness products. Why not? Let's give it a try.
Yeah. But you struggled. Well, what happened?
Oh, yeah. I really struggled. When my husband and I sat down and said, okay, are you really going to be able to do this? Are you really going to be able to resign from this, very successful corporate job? I mean, he was working full time. He made good money too, but still, it was a huge sacrifice to be able for me to leave that behind. But when we sat down and did our budget, I thought, really all we need to do if we simplify some things, I just need to make a couple $1,000 a month. I can do that in 6 months, I told him. But I couldn't. It was much more difficult than I thought it was. I had a bit of an arrogance about me that said, well, I've got the degree, I've got all this experience as an executive in the automotive industry, but I was trying to apply some of those lessons and those workings in a network marketing business that's really about relationships, not about spreadsheets and an organized calendar, right? So I was not successful. We actually, I didn't make the money I said I would. And we ended up having to short sale our house. We had to make a lot of sacrifices in order for me to even keep going, for me to keep trying.
You didn't quit.
You know what? People have asked me that, like, why then? Because what's interesting is even with that corporate job I had, they gave me a year like sabbatical. They said, we will protect. Everyone thought I was like postpartum or having some sort of midlife crisis. No one in the Detroit area would just leave a job like that without being fired, right? And I resigned. So they thought, well, let's just give Dena a year. But I tell you what, Simon, I had then had a taste of that lifestyle that I had been dreaming of. I was now working around my kids' schedule, time with my family, meaningful volunteer ministry. I had the attitude that old job could have given me $1 million a month and I still would have said no, because I had the taste now of a real life and I was absolutely determined to make it work. So that's what we did. We continued to make sacrifices and adjustments within our family. And then slowly over time, I'd say with the help of my upline and even with the company that I was with when I joined them, it was relatively a newer network marketing company. They didn't have a lot of systems in place to teach people like me, people without a network marketing background, how to do this successfully. So once the company started getting those in place, my business finally started to grow.
What was a turning point where, like a specific point where things really started taking off for you?
For me, it happened about 6 months into the pandemic. Because of my previous lifestyle, I developed a broken immune system. And we know the immune system is pretty important, right? So I had always been on this quest to get my health better. And the product line that I was working with definitely helped. But in June 2020, I started taking a product that was really coincidental, how I even found out about it. But I really had remarkable health improvements. I mean, so much so, I'll never forget sitting here at my desk and getting a report back on some latest testing I had done. And I just sat here crying because it was something I'd been working for a long time to try to get in order. So what started happening is people would come to me and I had a reputation for, Dena the health geek, what type of natural products or remedies or things could she suggest? And what ended up happening is people come to me and I would say, oh, I'm taking this new product. You need to go talk to my friends, such and such, right? The ones that had introduced me to what I started taking during the pandemic, because this stuff is incredible. Because for me, Simon, I love people, and it's above and beyond making money. I am out there to help people, whatever it is, whether it's something I'm using or another person's using at a different company. So after about 6 months of doing that, of being a raving fan and just sending people to my friends, I finally started to think, okay, maybe this is something that I need to look into. And what happened was a great strategy that we in our industry need to not forget is the power of three-way calls. So I had already been asked, of course, at that point by my friends, like, you're giving us these referrals. You need to do this business. And I'm like, no way. I've been with the company I'm with for over 10 years. I would never leave. I was making good money. I had a team and an upline I loved. I literally told them there is zero chance of me ever doing this as a business. But 6 months into it, I got that three-way call with my friend who had referred me to the product and their platinum upline leader. And this conversation, they just asked, would you take 5 minutes to just hear us out, hear what we've got to say? So I said, of course, sure, I'll take 5 minutes, right? I appreciate when people do that for me in my business. So they made a lot of really good points that I couldn't ignore. And so my husband and I sat down together. I laid it all out to him and I said, babe, what do you think? And he said, Dena, I want to tell you something. I have been watching you these last, in particular, 4 or 5 years where you have worked really hard and you've worked consistent, but nothing's changing in your paycheck. And he's rattling off some things. And he said, why don't we put this to the test? Give it a go. Give it 3 months. Okay. Give it 3 months and see what happens. And I'll tell you, Simon, after 3 months, I received my highest commission check that I had ever seen in my entire career of network marketing. And I did that, I will tell you, without touching my existing consultant or customer base, right? I didn't want to touch the hand or bite the hand that feeds me, that expression, right? So that was really pretty incredible. And I'll tell you, our successes continued to grow from there beyond anything we could have imagined.
That's really cool. So let's talk about three-way calls. I think a lot of people don't leverage them. I'm a huge believer of them, and because it helped me. What are some do's and don'ts for three-way calls?
What I saw, at least in this three-way call and the ones that I do with my team, is do let the expert that you're bringing in, let them do the talking. All right. The person, the prospect, let's call it, they already know you. They've already heard from you. All right. This is your time to listen, but also when you're making an introduction to really edify who it is that they're about to hear on the phone, right? That this is someone who has experience, they have the knowledge, and they're there to help you. And also the best three-way calls are ones where your upline has a little bit of background about this person, right? Because without that background, you don't know what their pain points are. So my pain point was, and this person knew that I had been unable to achieve my financial goals with the company that I was with. See, my husband and I, it's been our dream for him to now retire and get out of his 9-to-5 job. And it just, we couldn't do it. And that person knew that. And so that was very effective.
Yeah, that's really good. I think I remember, you put my memories when I first started my first three-way call, and my mentor got a sign up. And I said to him, hey, so I don't need to say anything? And he said to me, yeah, just shut up. If you ever say anything, I'll never do another call for you again. So I think that's really good advice. I think a lot of people, they feel like they have to talk. It's not your job to impress the upline. You leverage off your team.
Exactly.
How do you get someone onto a three-way call? I think that's a lot. People have a lot of fears. Like, how do you get? Let's just say I'm in your downline, Dena. How would I get a prospect, my friend, to talk to you? Because sometimes they don't want to talk. They'll say, "Oh, Simon, I just want to talk to you." So what do you suggest?
I'm not going to say that it's still the easiest thing to do. Some people will not get on the phone with somebody else, but you have to try because a lot of people will. And one thing that we have found is that just being humble and letting the prospect know you've got some great questions, or, the person that I'm working with has been doing this for a while. And I would love for you to get on the phone just for 5 minutes. She's extremely busy. You're busy, but just spending 5 minutes together, she could really answer your questions to a greater degree than I am. And I want you just to hear her experience, because it's one thing if I tell it to you, but it's a whole other thing when you hear it directly from her.
That's really, really good. Because then they have no chance. Basically, if they have a question and you're humble, you say, I actually don't know the answer. then they have no choice to take that call because they were the ones who asked the question, right? But if you do all the talking, and you're like, oh, you know everything, I don't need to talk to Dena. That's really good. And I think being humble, and that also sells the business. You're selling them that you have a team to support. They don't need to know everything.
That's right. Duplication in our business is key. So that's exactly right.
You mentioned about sacrifices. What are some sacrifices people need to make?
Oh, I can think of several. I know for me, Simon, my dream has always been, and it's part of why it's taken me this long to achieve success, is because I had a non-negotiable schedule about not working more than 20 hours a week. Okay. Because what I didn't want is I didn't want to be that person. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but I had that job where I had, quote, seasons of traveling, being away from the kids, being away from my husband, making a lot of money. That didn't work for me personally. So I wanted to have success in literally a 20-hour work week. And so what we did is, in particular me, I had to become very disciplined with my time. So sacrifices include not staying up, binging on Netflix. You hear people say that, but do you apply it, right? Also, I would say making sacrifices to even the way you're eating, moving your body. How are you taking care of your brain? So many people are just abusing it with a lot of junk food and tons of alcohol. And it really makes it hard to get up in the morning and thrive and to feel good. Those are sacrifices that I make so that I can wake up for my day, right? Feel good and have a super productive day. Because if you don't feel great, it's hard to do great, right? So that's a few things that I would recommend for sure when it comes to sacrifices.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, I'm going all in the business. And they think it's just the business activities, right? But going all in means, like what you said, if you're not eating healthy, that's not going all in, because that actually affects how you feel the next day, right? If you're not getting good sleep, you're not going all in. You're going halfway in because you can't be productive with that. It's like going all in is every part of your life. It's not just, oh, when I'm working in the business, I'm going all in. It's 24/7. 24/7.
Totally agree.
What would you say this is my favorite question, your worst moment in network marketing? To the point that you thought about going back to being an executive again, but you didn't, and that's why you are where you are.
Okay, so I've had a few. I'll say, I mentioned the one when I first couldn't make the money in the time we needed and short selling the house. That was a real tough time. But I'll also tell you that changing companies was absolutely horrible for me. It was devastating. You feel like you're cheating on your spouse, right? I like to say I'm a very loyal person. And, it's so bizarre, Simon, because when being 16 years in the corporate world, never once when I was changing my job to further my career did I worry about how that's going to affect my boss's paycheck, or worrying about the guy in the cube next door. And, we're not going to have coffee in the mornings or whatever. But this industry is so different. So the stress and the anxiety over making that decision, it was extremely overwhelming, to the point where I thought, even after getting that largest check I'd ever received after 3 months, I literally was to the point where I said, it's not worth it. I don't think it's worth it. But then the lesson came to me, and my husband and I had to talk about it a lot. My husband is so amazing. He really had to help me through this one. He said, Dena, change is okay. And let this be a lesson to you that when someone on your team one day comes to you, because it's going to happen, and says, hey, it's time for me to go, I now can be that person to let them go, right? It's their life. It's their dreams, their goals, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's good. You mentioned before, when you started, you came from a corporate background, and you were doing the corporate approach. How is this business different? Because obviously you did that, you struggled, and it took you a couple of years until you realized, hey, this is very, very different. So what are some things you did in the beginning coming from your corporate background that you realize this is so different, doesn't work?
I think two things off the top of my head that I can think of. Number one is income producing activities. So the type of business I came from in the corporate world, yes, technically it was selling safety components for vehicles to, the OEMs, but here, income producing activities are something on a day-to-day basis, right? That's not how it worked in my former job. I would land maybe 2 or 3 contracts a year that were major contracts, right? So that DMO having a daily method of operation, and thanks to you and purpose-driven networkers, it's like teaching me that you have to focus on these activities every day or your business is not going to grow. Don't get into management mode, because that's what I was. I was in management mode before, trying to help my team so that they could grow, they could build, they could enroll people, they could get more customers. I needed to be doing it myself too. And I wasn't focusing enough on myself, on those day-to-day activities. And then also personal development. I had an arrogance, like I had this title, I have this degree. I don't really, need personal development. Oh yeah, you do. Everybody needs personal development. And I've grown to be a better person because of it in so many ways. Personal development takes on a lot of different forms. How to communicate with people, how to have a schedule that really helps you to achieve, your goals and get rid of distractions. I came from an environment that if I didn't answer my phone at every time and, someone from General Motors or Ford is calling, or our CEO is calling, it's like, whoa, now I have to go on do not disturb when I'm working on prospect, when I'm in the zone of a project, right? That's things that we were never taught before.
You mentioned income producing activities. What are your income producing activities?
Well, my daily method of operation is starting new contacts, right? Making new connections. I do a combination. Mostly I do that online through social media. Following up with people is huge. My checklist includes checking in with 2 of my customers. How are they liking the product? Do they know the best way to get it? Are they getting it at the best price available? Checking in with 2 consultants each day, someone on my team, let them know I'm there. What are they working on? How can I help? Where are their wins? Where are they struggling? Also posting social media content and making sure I'm getting social media content on all my different channels. And I know there's another one. I think the last one is follow up. Well, maybe that's it. But I'm always tweaking that too, by the way, because we develop. And so I've tweaked my checklist as time has gone on. And that's been very good for me.
How important is consistency to success?
Well, I think 100% of your guests have to say it's critical. Consistency is so, so crucial. But, I do want to add one thing, Simon, is that you have to be consistent in the right areas, consistent at the right things. I started off by saying I've always been a hard worker, and that's true. And even though there were times with my initial company over those 10 years that I couldn't work, my circumstances didn't allow me to work as hard as I wanted to. But for the most part, I'm extremely consistent and a hard worker. But if you're not consistent at the right things, you're still not going to grow. So being consistent in the right things for our business is crucial.
I want to add something that you mentioned. It's important. So about selling cycles, right? And for those who don't know what a selling cycle is and how quickly someone buys something, right? If you're on Yelp and looking for a restaurant, if I'm visiting you in Fort Myers, probably the selling cycle is really quickly. I just look at it, Yelp, and I make a quick buying decision. If I'm buying an automotive part for General Motors, it's probably could be months, maybe even one year. And I think that's the difference with people that you brought it up. It's very different because in terms of relationship building, just like when you're selling automotive parts, it may take months before I buy, right? So you're always cultivating that, hanging on to that a couple of prospects. So all you need is like 2 or 3 big deals of the year, and you're good to go. Well, here it's more about, most people are not going to buy. That's why you got to go through lots of people to catch them at the right time. Mm-hmm. And Yeah, you brought that up. It's like you can't be stuck in that management mode. It's not working with the same 5, 10 people. You got to be adding like 2, 3, 5, 10 people a day. And
That's right.
Most people are not gonna be ready to buy when you approach them. And it's a quick cycle too. It's like once you present them, you got to close them. And if they're not ready to buy, you move on. It's not like, hey, I'm going to wait 6 months and talking to the same person over and over again. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to ask you a couple quick questions to pick your brain. And these can be quick one-liners. So the first one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes that motivates you?
Discipline your disappointment. That was crucial for me. And it's what made me successful. Because, in this business, like you just mentioned, we get a lot of no's. You get people who start the business, they stop, or they say they're going to do something and they don't, right? So we're human beings. It's okay to be disappointed, but discipline it. Don't take it personal. Don't let it stop you from moving forward and achieving your goals.
What is one habit that's helped you become successful?
Two quick ones stick out in my mind. On Sundays, I spend an hour and I plan my whole week. And from personal to spiritual to secular activities, it all gets taken from my electronic calendar, right? My Google Calendar onto a paper calendar. And every day that I'm working, I list my top 3 objectives that I have to get done that day. So I'm completely organized for my week. And as a busy mom with, my daughter virtual schools and stuff, I include meal prep on there. I know exactly what meals I'm going to make that week. And so that I can on Mondays get my Instacart order ready, have my groceries delivered, and it just helps me to be efficient and get the right things done. And second thing is absolutely my morning routine. Until I started. Routine? Okay. So my morning routine starts off with prayer, Bible reading, and meditation. On that, then I do gratitude journaling, a whole in-depth type of gratitude journaling. That's pretty awesome. Then I take my supplements, take the dog out for a walk. I got my own OB at my house, a little Maggie. And then I do some Pilates. Then I get ready for the day.
That's awesome. What's the best advice you ever received?
Oh, for me personally, from my husband, it was to give this company, try the business for 3 months, see what happens. And that's the same best advice many people will get when they let go of prejudice or false information about network marketing. And they're like, you know what, let me just give it a try. That will be the best advice they ever got to.
What's your favorite prospecting tool? So say someone is a qualified prospect, they're interested, they want to learn more. Do you hop on a Zoom with them? Do you send a personal video, or do you send a company video, or do you do a face-to-face or phone call? What do you like to use?
So the company that I work with, we have an awesome app for consultants. And this app has tons of different videos or PDFs that we can use. So depending on the conversation that I'm having with the person or what I've come to know about that prospect, do they work out? Are they into anti-aging, whatever, health? I will send one of our tools from the app. Most of the time, it's one of our videos.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app? Aside from the company app, since you mentioned that'd be too easy.
Right. I'm a big fan of an app called Boards, especially if you ever type something more than once. And for those of us that are prospecting on social media, we do it all the time. It's going to make your life 100 times easier. I love it.
What are 2 or 3 books you could recommend to ML Nation?
Hands down, number 1 is The Consistency Pill. And I legit would be saying that no matter who was interviewing me today. It is the book I have reread the most. It is one of my all-time favorites. I think almost everyone on my team has it. And I also really like Randy Gage's work. Just something simple like making the first circle work. And I also love his book, Direct Selling Success.
Hey, thank you for the shout out for The Consistency Pill. Thank you.
It's a great book.
Here's the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
I am so ready.
So Dena, imagine you had to start all over again and you knew no one. So you didn't know your daughter, didn't know your husband. You're like, your contact list on your phone was 0. You had 0 friends on social media, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. what's the first thing you do or the first place you go to build a network marketing business from scratch?
I would dual path it. I would get established on a social media platform, start thinking about who I'm talking to, who is my ideal customer avatar, right? Start making connections with them, creating content. But I would also dual path it to establish myself locally, join a networking group or join a gym, somewhere where I can actually get my face in front of others and start building relationships in person as well.
Who would you target first on social media?
For me, I mean, I am usually targeting busy working moms. Those are the ones because that was me, right? That's who I can relate to. I was the one also burning the candle at both ends and ignoring my health and then having to pay for it. So I try to reach out to those ones to teach them a better way, right? A more proactive approach to life.
Hey, thank you so much. As we wrap up, Dena, any last words or advice? And then what's the best way listeners can connect with you?
Okay, so, I'm sitting here, Simon, in Fort Myers, Florida. We just had Hurricane Ian a week ago today. And I've got to tell you that there are people in my neighbors who no longer have a job because that restaurant or hotel, it doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. And their whole livelihood just changed in one day. So what we have, right, with the type of business that network marketing allows, that time flexibility, but also that's that plan B that so many people are looking for, whether it's something devastating, like a natural disaster that we just went through, or the economy even. A lot of people are worried about that. They're looking for a plan B. We have it, but they don't know what they don't know. So we have to open our mouths and share and let them decide. And if it's a no right now, that's okay. But it may be a yes someday. And I also want to remind people I'm living proof it's possible to have network marketing success on part-time hours. If this is your dream, don't give up too soon, right? Don't blame your upline. You're not achieving your goals. Track your time. What are you spending your business working hours on, right? And then ask someone, whether it's your upline or a cross-line leader, somebody else, hey, take a look at this list. Where am I going wrong? Why are things not working for me? I'd love your opinion. Just don't give up. Be proud of our industry, because if you keep going, you will achieve success. There's so much help out there. You just got to find the right help.
And how can people connect with you, Dena?
So they can check out my website at denaholmes.com, DenaHolmes.com. Or I hang out a lot on Instagram, Dena, Dena.Holmes, HOLMZ on Instagram.
MLM Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today, you've been hanging out with Dena Holmes. So keep up the momentum and go to MLMNation.com. Click on the podcast tab at the top and the show notes to this episode with all the nuggets of wisdom that Dena shared, including the links to her social media profiles. Definitely check her out on Instagram. Her website will be right there. Hey, in order to be successful in life, in business, and in network marketing, you must help others. So Dena, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with MLM Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
Thanks, Simon.